Quantum Consciousness Evolution by Sasha via Lyssa Royal and Tash Anestos. Hi, my name's Tash, and this presentation outlines a quantum consciousness model channeled by Sasha via Lyssa Royal at a contact workshop in Mount Fuji, Japan, 2015. It was then integrated with some material that I had previously been working on regarding quantum mechanical theory as it pertains to consciousness and the practical application of this in our day-to-day lives. This is a 2D model intended to provide a basic conceptual understanding for the higher purpose of applying its principles directly. The evolution of quantum consciousness is a journey, not merely a mental exercise. We hope the model is utilized as a gateway for this purpose. Our model begins with the founders. The primary one consciousness, the embodiment of wholeness via the paradox of oneness and separateness that is ultimately you. It is the universal pulse of creation. The founders work on a fragmentation gradient, ranging from zero fragmentation and infinite mass to infinite fragmentation and finite mass. The galactic core. The Milky Way core, the conduit for the universal pulse of creation from which consciousness evolution unfolds. Wave energy oneness. The singular electromagnetic light force of infinite creative potential pulsed through the galactic core as an all-pervasive sea of probability. The galactic core emits this singular wave pulse of creation from the founders that polarizes positive and negative, expansive and contractive, with the fragmentation gradient. This represents potential, unfulfilled potential. The wave energy of oneness is all probabilities simultaneously coexisting, but unfulfilled probabilities. Until separation occurs. Particleized matter and separateness. This is the fulfillment of the infinite creative potential that is channeled through the galactic core by the founders. It is the fulfillment of this infinite potential via separation, the means by which oneness can experience every potentiality of itself as relative to every other potentiality of itself. As wave energy potential becomes known as other by fragmented consciousness, it transforms into particleized matter. Density. The energy mass per unit of fragmentation. The greater the fragmentation, the lower the density. As the founders move from a state of oneness down through the fragmentation gradient to an infinite state of fragmentation, density moves from a state of infinite mass down to a state of finite mass as it experiences separation. Human reality. Human awareness occupies third density. Third density is roughly equated with 4 dimensions. We exist within the 4th dimension. 3 spatial, height, width, and depth, plus 1 time. And we are shifting to a 4th and 5th density, which is roughly equated to the 5th dimension. 4 dimensions that we are aware of, plus 1 more, the concurrence of space-time. In other words, the non-linearity of space and time. ET reality exists within this space, the 4th and 5th density, which is a hotspot for blending individuality and still retaining some subtle linearity, combined with a collective consciousness, moving into the non-linearity of space and time. In other words, the concurrence of multiple space timelines. Most ET consciousness occupies this energetic band. This is because it is able to simultaneously retain the individuality of the self with which us as third-dimensional humans can easily relate, as combined with the collective consciousness of the whole, to give us a better understanding of how we can integrate individuality with collectiveness. There is a shared reality. Humans can interact with ET consciousness in an overlap zone between the third and fourth density as humans learn to step up and ETs step down their awareness. Let's talk now about the mechanics of how the energy of the founders in a singular oneness form transitions through the galactic core and creates separation, which brings to us our state of relative experience. It is best described through wave-particle duality, whereby every photon of energy is simultaneously a wave and a particle. In other words, a wave represents a singular state of oneness. And within that state of oneness is infinite potential. But this is only potential, because oneness cannot experience itself without being separate from itself. It has to have a relative experience in order to know every aspect of itself as relative to every other aspect of itself. That is the wave. And a particle is fulfilled probability. It is when these potentialities presented by the wave densify down into a single particle of matter, creating separation. And this separation allows for experience. The interesting thing about this is that particles, once they have become matter, once they have become separate, always maintain their connection back to the infinite state of oneness. This is described through quantum fluctuation, the harmonic oscillation between quantum states, between a wave state and a particle state, whereby it continues to fluctuate and it is never 100% one or the other. Per the uncertainty principle, the more one aspect of a photon is known, such as its momentum, when we try to measure a particle to understand that it is physicalized matter, and we pinpoint the momentum, we find that other aspects, such as the position, become more unknown, become more wave-like, and become infinite in nature. This creates zero-point energy density, the infinite mass state of oneness within quantum fluctuation, in which a state of rest is 100% known in the case of the particle, the momentum, and its reciprocal state is infinite, unknown, the position. In this state, when its position becomes infinite, it takes on infinite mass. This is the infinite density described previously. A vortex into this state occurs in the space-time between each quantum wave pulse. As each quantum wave pulse represents every now moment, in between every now moment is an access point, a vortex that allows us to move from a state of separation to a state of oneness, tapping in to infinite potential and bringing back one potentiality that becomes the experience that we have in that next now moment. Understand that the human breath, the ebb and flow of the human breath, represents the same ebb and flow of the quantum fluctuation between infinite oneness, wave energy, and particleized matter, separateness. At the peak point of the in-breath, at the top of your in-breath, represents the 0-point energy density. That is your access point. That is your connection back to the founder source of oneness. Breathe in, hold, and feel the energy come through you in a form of potentiality, pulling back, bringing back one probability out of an infinite number of probabilities that creates your next now moment. By leveraging quantum fluctuation to access zero-point energy density, extraterrestrials have been able to ascend from third density to fourth and fifth density. This is a core foundational function of fourth and fifth density. Two primary examples are how extraterrestrials are able to bypass the linearity of space for space travel and time for time travel. Quantum entanglement is probably the best example of oneness being physicalized simultaneously in particle form. When two particles come into contact with one another and they are later separated, they can communicate with each other faster than the speed of light across any distance. They are able to bypass the limitations of known space and known time, as exemplified through Bell's theorem and Wheeler's delayed choice experiment. This is how extraterrestrials are accessing quantum fluctuation to tap into zero-point energy density to bypass certain points in space and certain points in time for direct access to any point in space and any point in time. Now that we have a grasp on how the physics work regarding density evolution, let's talk about our own situation in third density. The duality that we experience is a physical duality. When the wave energy pulse comes through in the form of positive and negative, and we hold the charge in between in third density, we are necessarily the manifestation of consciousness fragmentation and the wave probability polarization combined into one. This is a situation where all things are experienced in relative contrast to all other things. What holds this in place is the ego. It is the third density anchor for fragmented consciousness to maintain the immersive experience of duality through an illusory identity that keeps it polarized from all that is not identity. And what is the source of this false identity? Our beliefs. The learned expectations that we gather throughout our lives from our parents, our friends and family, our schools, our media, our religious institutions, and society as a whole that create the way that we view the world. This method of how we view the world then is equated with our ego. Our ego adopts that as its own structure, and it defends it to the bitter end. Every event that occurs in our life, every now moment, it takes that now moment and it holds it up and it judges it against our belief structure. And the gap between what it expects and what is our state of non-peace. So we spend our lives trying to shape our reality around our beliefs, trying to control our environment and other people to match what we believe. In this case, we never learn from what we experience. We never fully embrace it and accept it and integrate it into our consciousness so that we can expand into new horizons, because we are stuck upon our beliefs, believing that we are our beliefs. There's only one solution if we don't want to spend our lives trying to control our environment to match our beliefs, which is impossible. We must surrender. We must surrender. The unconditional allowance and acceptance of what is through the dissolution of our beliefs will be the only thing that can result in a true closure of the gap that represents our state of unhappiness, the full integration of duality and the evolution of consciousness. By surrendering, we can allow ourselves to be immersed in the experience with our ego, but explaining to our ego that it is not our beliefs, but that we still want to be immersed in these experiences. And the ego can still do its job, allowing us to experience the full duality of positivity and negativity, of expansion and contraction. And we can embrace each moment, not because we judge it to be good or bad, but because we judge it to be as valid as any other experience, because every experience is a part of the founder consciousness. It is all equal. And once we can embrace that and let go of our beliefs, we can quickly tap into the next potentiality and move into the next moment. And our consciousness expands because we've integrated those previous experiences, allowing our consciousness to expand and take on more and more and more probabilities until we reach a point where we are integrated into the fourth and fifth density, and to the point which we are integrated with each other into a collective consciousness, because our consciousness has expanded so much that we have accepted and experienced every aspect of our planet, of our solar system, of our galaxy, of our universe, until the point where we are the founders in totality. This is consciousness evolution. It is the reintegration of fragmented consciousness as proportional to the unconditional movement through and the integration of each now moment. In third density, as consciousness shifts to new probabilities matching integration capacity, it is experienced as linear space-time. Each moment is a new moment, and as we tap into that infinite potential and bring back that next moment, let it be the best moment ever. Let it not be shaped by our beliefs that keep us stuck in past moments or keep us fearful of moving into future moments. But once we shed our beliefs, we can tap into that potentiality and realize and experience the probabilities that are representative of our highest potential, and thereby evolve ourselves and our consciousness from third density into fourth density and beyond. In conclusion, as we physically experience the separateness of human form, remember the quantum guarantee of simultaneous oneness with the universe. Separateness exists only for oneness to experience itself. The ego anchors us to third density duality by judging each moment against our belief-based expectations. The gap between what is and what we expect is our state of non-peace. Peace exists not through controlling what is to match our expectations, but by surrendering our expectations unconditionally and allowing, without judgment, all aspects of experience, positive and negative, expansive and contractive, to integrate into the consciousness equally, thus expanding our capacity to experience new patterns, hence moving from third density awareness to fourth density awareness. And lastly, remember, consciousness evolves individually and collectively through surrendering to the moment, thus removing all resistance to the natural ebb and flow into and out of the quantum state, thus accelerating the cycling from infinite potential to progressive experience. This is consciousness evolution. This is how we as a species will evolve from third density to fourth density and beyond. Won't you please join us?